Welcome, everyone. I have 12:02, so I think we can go ahead and get started. This is the Tips for Successful PRCRP Applications webinar. My name is Lisa Peabody, and I'm with the National Brain Tumor Society. I'm their Public Policy Associate. And we're also joined happily today with St. Baldrick's Foundation. Danielle Leach is here with them, and she is the Senior Director of Government Relations and Advocacy, and also with the co-chair of the Alliance for the Childhood Cancer. And our two organizations have partnered in a number of areas. One is this webinar and this research outreach, but we've also been both organizations very active with keeping these categories of research in this congressionally directed medical research program that Donna Kimbark is going to talk about with us. Every year we engage our advocates and send letters to members of Congress to make sure that pediatric brain tumors have been included in this program. And this year we advocated to include adult brain tumors along with, so that's a brand new category. And we also added young adult and adolescent cancer categories. Really excited that Congress has approved those categories. Because we increased these categories, we also asked for a little more money. So this year, $10 million was added to this program to reach $60 million. So we're grateful for that collaboration with St. Baldrick's and that we're able to provide this funding for researchers. Let me just give you a little bit of housekeeping. So you guys are on mute right now. And if you have a question, since we have so many people on the line, you can take your mouse over the screen and go over to the far right. You should see the chat button. And at any time during the presentation, you can send a message or a question here. It'll go to the whole group. And then at the end, we will take some time to read those questions to Dr. Kimbark, and she'll help answer those. So as I said, you're muted. So if you have any questions or issues going on, you'll have to go through that chat. So I think we are ready to get started. So Dr. Donna Kimbark, she's our presenter today, and she's going to share about this program. She is the program manager of the PRCRP. I had to say that word like 100 times so that it would just come out quickly. It's the peer-reviewed cancer research program, and she's really qualified for this role. She has her PhD in molecular pharmacology and cancer therapeutics. She did some postdoctoral training at Johns Hopkins, and before she was the program manager for this project, she was the science officer for the Department of Defense's breast cancer research program. So she's really been working on this for a long time. So Donna, if you want to go ahead and get started, that'd be great.
Okay, so if we could go to my title side, I want to first welcome everyone that's on the webinar today. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the congressionally directed medical research programs, introduce you to that. I'm also going to introduce you a tiny bit to the peer-reviewed cancer research program, but what I'm going to focus a lot about is tips for success, and what we've seen are some pitfalls that people make when they're applying to our programs. So if we could go to my next slide, it was the slide number 3, and what we have here is, who is the CDMRP? What is the CDMRP? And you can tell I've been here a long time because I can say CDMRP without even thinking about it. But we do sit at the Department of Defense. We are part of the Department of Defense. We are part of the Department of Army. We actually sit at Fort Detrick in Maryland. We are part of the Medical Research and Materiel Command. So we're part of the Army Medical Command. So that's where we sit as far as who the CDMRP is. I'm going to talk to you a little bit now about what are some characteristics of CDMRP. First of all, going to slide 4, I'm going to talk to you about the vision and mission. What is the CDMRP all about, and why are we here? What we are trying to do is transform healthcare for service members and the American public through innovative and impactful research. We are not a research program ourselves. We fund extramural research and intramural research. That's what we do. We are a managing execution agency in order to get the money out to the researchers to do the good work that they do. The mission of CDMRP, in order to push that vision, is really about responsibly managing collaborative research from intramural and extramural sources to discover and develop and answer the questions and the hard knowledge gaps that are out there in the different areas that CDMRP manages. I'm going to go over the many different programs that we manage as well. And this is for the service members, veterans, and the American public. All of our work is really for both service members and the American public itself. Going to the next slide, some of the hallmark characteristics of CDMRP. Each one of the programs are targeted funds that are added to the DoD budget by Congress. And that's a really good a point here. Then it's at the top of that slide for a reason. And the reason it's at the top of the slide is that it is added to the DoD budget. We are not in the president's budget. This is an added line added to the DoD appropriation each year. So we're not like NIH in that regard. NIH exists a part of the presidential budget. We exist on a year-to-year basis, dependent upon the Congress answering the needs of the American public as well as service members. And they answer that, and they know those needs because advocates go to the Hill and ask them and say, we need this or we need that for different types of issues that the American public and service members are finding that there are knowledge gaps that some of the other federal agencies and non-federal agencies are not filling. And that's where the CDMRP comes in. Consumers, we call patients and patient advocates and caregivers consumers. Why do we call them consumers? Because they are the end users of the products of the research. So they are the ones that are going to be using those treatments or whatnot. So the consumers participate throughout the process. As I said, they're the ones that go up to the Hill and ask and alert Congress that there is an issue. And at the same time, they do interact and participate at our peer review panels and our programmatic panels. And I'll talk to you a little bit about what that is in a minute. We do try to fund high impact research and highly innovative research. That's really where we come from and where we've been sitting for the last 25 odd years. And we do try to avoid duplication with other funding agencies. That's really important. We are not in competition with the NIH. We are in a collaboration with the NIH. The NIH is going to fund certain types in certain areas. We are going to fund where they are not funding. And so we are going to find those gaps that they cannot possibly spread all of their funds to, and we're going to fill those areas. Each of the programs, PR CRP, peer-reviewed cancer research program, is going to have a different vision and different investment strategy than, for instance, the Gulf War illness research program. So each program has its own vision and its own investment strategy. We do have flexibility of funding. Our funds are obligated up front. That means if you apply to our program in 2017, you apply. And what we're going to do is you get a $400,000 direct cost idea award. We are going to obligate all of those funds up front to that award. And that means that if the PR CRP does not get funds next year, you don't have to worry. You are going to get your $400,000 if you hit all your milestones. So we are very different in the NIH like that. We have very limited continuation funding because we are a yearly program. So we can't say that we're going to, if you do the work on this award, we can then fund you to continue. We don't have that type of award mechanism. And there's no pay line. I can't tell you this is the score you need to get in order to get funded. We have a slightly different method in order to get to that funding recommendation um, area. So let's go to the next slide. And these are all of the programs that the CDMRP currently manages and executes. You can see we have a number of different programs from alcohol and substance abuse to lung cancer to Parkinson's disease. And what we have for peer-reviewed cancer is $60 million for the FY17 year in 14 different topic areas. So that's that we have our own vision, our own mission. We also have some congressional language that some of these other programs do not have. And if we look at the next slide, you can see that topic area thing is something that I like to point out. That's very important to pay attention to for the peer-reviewed cancer research program. The reason being is that our topic areas change each year, and that is driven by Congress. I don't sit here in my desk and say, who is going to be, which topic areas am I going to put into this PRCRP this year? I don't have any control over that at all. In fact, I cannot go to Congress and ask them and support any of these topic areas to be put into the peer-reviewed cancer research program. That's against um, it's against the ethics rules. So the peer-reviewed cancer research program started in 2009, and you can see in 2009 we have 4 different topic areas. All the way up to 2016, we've had 13 topic areas. So they change. If you look at it, you can see that in 2009 we didn't have any blood cancer, but in 2010, fiscal year 2010, we had blood cancer, and we have blood cancer all the way through 2014, 2015, and 16, and even 17. It has dropped out. For your pediatric brain tumors, you can see we started out with pediatric brain tumors for 2 years, then it dropped out, then it came back for 3 years, then it dropped out again, and now we have it for another for FY16 and FY17. And this is important because if you look at melanoma and other skin cancers, it's the only topic area that has been there all along. Okay. And when I show you the pie for how much we've invested in each one of these, you're going to notice that melanoma and other skin cancers has the largest slice of the pie. And the reason why it has the largest slice of the pie is because this is the kid that keeps on coming to the table and getting a slice of pie. Okay. The other kids are off on the playground or something. So you can see that sometimes they're there and sometimes they're not. Also, one of the other things that you have to pay attention to is the how large the actual research community is and how much we've gotten the word out as well. So if you have a very large research community like the colorectal cancer community or the melanoma community, even bladder cancer and liver cancer are pretty well established in the United States. But you'll see like for mesothelioma, it has a smaller number of people that are doing studies and so on. So all of that will play a part in how much of a slice of the pie they're getting and whether or not they've been with us for a while. If you go to the next slide, you'll see our FY17 topic areas. Our FY17 topic areas, we have 14 topic areas. Bladder cancer, brain cancer is a new topic area this year. So I'm really excited to be able to be speaking to you this year because we do want a good receipt for brain cancer. If you scroll down, you'll see that pediatric brain tumors is also this year has been able to stay with us this year, so that's good. And then if you go to the very next one, you have cancer in children, adolescents, and young adults has also been added this year. That's a new topic area this year. So it's great for us to bring that along. Now, some people might ask, what is your definition of children, adolescents, and young adults? We are going with the definition that NCI uses. Young adults goes all the way up to the age of 39. So there's some other boxes there on that slide that says applications must address at least one of these topic areas. That's a requirement. One of these topic areas have to be answered. The funds may not be used for breast, prostate, lung, kidney, or ovarian cancers. And the reason why is that each one of those cancers is actually already being covered by by the if these are actually being covered by the other research programs. So the research progress should be relevant to service members and their families as well. So you might ask the question, how do I make pediatric brain tumor something that's a cancer in children? How do I make that relevant to service members and their families? I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. If you go to the next slide, this is the pie that I talked to you about, the PRCRP investment per topic area. You can see that melanoma and other skin cancers is the largest, is the actual largest slice of the pie. So, that's great that we have a large amount there. You can see that bladder cancer just joined us in 2015, so it has a smaller slice of the pie. But you can see that liver cancer that just started a couple of years ago it's getting larger. So overall, one of the things that's really important is that almost every one of the topic areas that Congress has seen fit to put in the peer-reviewed cancer research program has been able to get funding. Okay, and I think that's really important. We have about $200 million that has been put into the peer-reviewed cancer research program as an appropriation, and almost every single one of the topic areas has been invested in. And I think one of the reasons for that is that our programmatic panel is very cognizant of each one of the different topic areas. And they really want to make sure that each one of those topic areas get funded. There's only been one topic area that has not been funded, and that is we had a topic area for a few years that was called radiation protection utilizing nanotechnology, and it was not funded because we didn't get the meritorious scientific applications that we needed. If you go to the next slide, we will see our programmatic cycle. What I want to do now is I want to introduce you to how applications come into CDMRP, how they are reviewed, and finally how they are managed. So first of all, the Congress adds an appropriation onto the DoD appropriation. They will add money onto the DoD appropriation for the peer-reviewed cancer research program. And so this starts the whole cycle. We will not have a stakeholders meeting this year. That's usually for the inaugural year of the PRCRP, and that started in 2009 when we had that. At the fulcrum of that first circle there, you will see what's called the programmatic panel. And this is the panel I've been referring to throughout this talk. This panel is really important because this panel is made up of a number of different people: clinicians, extramural clinicians, extramural researchers, consumers, and military members. They all sit on our panel, and they actually give recommendations to the program about what the vision should be. And that vision is what our investment strategy should be. And that investment strategy then is interpreted and translated to a program announcement. That program announcement is our solicitation. We release it to the public on grants.gov, and then we ask the public, intramurals and extramurals, to answer those program announcements. Those program announcements ask for a pre-application. So pre-application receipt occurs, and during then those pre-applications are then screened by that programmatic panel. They review all of those pre-applications. After pre-application, then they invite. What we do, they send us recommendations for invitation. They then invite a number of applicants um, to submit full applications. Those full applications then come in, and then we do peer review. Peer review is done by a different set of people. Okay, it's done by a different contractor. It's done by a different set of people. We have clinicians. We have research scientists, some military, some retired military, some consumers on each and every panel, and they review the full application. Their review then goes to the programmatic review panel. And that programmatic review panel then makes the final funding recommendations. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how peer and programmatic review works in a moment. So I'm going to go into more detail in a moment after this slide. After we have our funding recommendations, the final approval authority, including the general, then puts their stamp of approval on it. And then we do award negotiations and award management. We do have oversight of the awards throughout. So we go to the next slide, and on the next slide, you'll see what we're talking about. I'm going to talk about the goals of the peer review and the programmatic review process. We call this our two-tiered review process. Like I told you, the peer review is going to review that whole application package, your project narrative, your budget, your SOW, and so on. You're going to review the entire application package, and according to what's in the program announcement, they're going to review and score on the criterion-based evaluation of the entire proposal. The determination of absolute scientific merit occurs at this time period. This is where we look at the research feasibility and strategy. And the outcome of this is a written critique with scores. So they have a written critique that explains the strengths and the weaknesses of each one of the criterion. They explain the strengths and the weaknesses, and they give an overall score. Okay, and this is all done by a programmatic panel of clinicians and research scientists and military as well as consumers that are different than the panel that's the programmatic panel. Now that summary statement, we call it the summary statement, that summary statement then moves to programmatic review. Now at programmatic review, our programmatic panel comes back together again. Now they've been with us all year long. They know the investment strategy. They know it's in the program announcement. And so what they do at this point, they're the ones that are going to compare. At peer review, what they did was they looked at each one of the applications based on its own merit, kind of scored against a gold standard. Okay. Now a programmatic review, what they're going to do is they're going to compare and contrast the different proposals against one another. They're going to use the criteria that's written in the program announcement, but they're also going to balance out the program's portfolio. We have 5 melanoma awards that we're already going to fund. We have 2 cancers in adolescents that we're funding. So we have a bunch more, we have some more money. Should we fund another one in the cancers for children, adolescents, and young adults, or should we then go ahead and fund it in melanoma? Maybe the melanoma one has scored slightly better than the cancers in children and young adults and so on. So which one would we fund? We might just go ahead and fund that slightly lower scoring one in the cancers in children, adolescents, and young adults. And the reason for that is because of the fact that we want a balanced portfolio. We want to answer the call from Congress to actually fund in this area. And third, that summary statement that I talked to you about at peer review actually pointed out all the weaknesses. So during award negotiations that happens after the recommendation for funding, what we can do then is we can go back to the applicant. We can go back to the PI and say, you know, you have these weaknesses. Can you clarify the issues? Can you strengthen this? Can you put a biostatistician on? Can you change how you're doing this one aim? And if they can do all of that, then we strengthen that project to the point where it is fundable. So we can do that, and it's important for us to have a balanced portfolio as well as funding the best that's out there. As I said, there's no pay line, so that's one of the reasons why I can't tell you what the number is, the absolute number is that you need to get in order to get funded, because we want a balanced portfolio. So I'm going to go on to the next slide now. So I'm going to go to slide 12. It's the award mechanisms pipeline slide. And what we have here is the types of different award mechanisms that are often being used by the CDMRP, but have also been used by the peer-reviewed cancer research program. So what we have here is we have on the top we have our career development. We fund the different stages of career, from pre-doc and post-doc all the way up to established investigator. In the past, the peer-reviewed cancer research program has offered a Horizon Award, which was for pre-docs and post-docs. This year, we are not offering that. We do offer new investigator award for our newer our early career development award. We call it the Career Development Award, and established investigators are more than happy to be funded in some of our other mechanisms. Other types of mechanisms, the Research Award. This is like initial concepts or early ideas. That's really where CDMRP really has built their foundation on, and that's what peer-reviewed cancer research program has really built their foundation on, and that is the initial concepts and early ideas types of award mechanisms to start up getting the preliminary data that you might need for an R01, for instance. Now, moving forward, one of the other things that we've tried to do is Team Science awards as well, because we have to put people together, the best people together, to collaborate in order to get the best science sometimes. Not, the more people sometimes is better for the results. So I'm going to go to the next slide, which is slide 13 for FY17 PRCRP funding opportunities. These are the funding opportunities that we have open today. Okay, you can go to grants.gov and you can find each one of these. If you want to know it's important for you to know the catalog of federal domestic assistance number. That is 12.420. Okay, and you can pull down all of the congressionally directed medical research program opportunities. And I'm going to say that one more time, 12.420. So the IDEA Award with special focus is our grounding award. It is our foundation award. We have used this for many years now for the PRCRP. This is available to all researchers with a faculty level appointment are eligible. This is really supporting those high risk, high gain type of studies. We know that funding something that's high risk, we might not get anything out, but we want that high gain that high risk might give us. So that's what the IDEA Award is all about. We really have a strong emphasis on innovation in this award mechanism. Preliminary data is discouraged. We don't need the preliminary data at this point. We want you to base this on strong science, but we want you to make that leap. One of the points that's very important with the IDEA Award with special focus is their quote unquote special focus. Special focus is about military relevance. Okay, we want this to be militarily relevant. And you're thinking, how am I going to make this militarily relevant? I'm going to show you how. The direct costs are 400K, and you add the indirects over that, and that's for a 2-year award. The Translational Team Science Award has been with us for a couple of years now. This is about bringing 2 to 3 partners together so that they can collaborate on working on studies that are translational in nature. We're looking for assistant professors and above are eligible. This really is going to support correlative studies that have an ongoing or completed clinical trial. We will pay for some clinical trial costs with this award, but we really want a hypothesis driven correlative studies to bring some of the information that you're getting out of that clinical trial, bring it back to the lab bench, work on it, and get some more information that might push that clinical trial forward or bring us to a different conclusion of what we should do next for a preclinical or clinical work. Emphasis once again on military relevance. Preliminary data is required for this one. So we want you to show us that you have some preliminary data. The direct costs are $1 million over all of the partners. Each partner does not get $1 million. It's all of the partners have to share that $1 million. And that is in direct costs. Indirects come over that. Career Development Award was just released today. So this is for our young investigators out there. Independent investigator within 10 years of their terminal degree. For instance, if you, what does that mean, 10 years of their terminal degree? And what I want to make a point here is that this excludes time done in medical residency or Family Medical Leave Act, okay? So if you have, for instance, you received your degree in 2005, okay, and now you think you're 10 years out, so that would be 2015, okay. So you're not eligible. You may be eligible because maybe you spent 3 years as a medical resident, and so that brings you to 2000 and 2008. So you are within that 10 years. So that's important to note. That's how we are designating an early career investigator. It's very close and similar to what NIH does. Designated mentors should be an associate professor. And what we're trying to do here is support impactful research. Preliminary data is not required. And once again, we are asking for a requirement of military relevance. The direct costs here are $360K over 3 years. Now, anybody that's an early career investigator, you're more than welcome to go ahead and also apply to the IDEA award with special focus. Just don't use the same idea for both of those. You can do it. Go right ahead. Have fun. So if we go to the next slide that says military exposures and cancer risk, slide 14, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that military relevance. How do you get military relevance? There's two focus areas for military relevance, okay, in each one of these program announcements that I just noted, okay? 2 focus areas. One is about military exposures and cancer risks, and the other one I'm going to talk about in a moment. So these are the different military exposures and cancer risks that are out there, from Agent Orange, I think we've all heard about it, to asbestos, to infectious agents, and so on. Agent Orange, I think, is a given. I think we've all heard about that one. Asbestos, I think we've all heard about Navy shipyards and asbestos. But remember that many of our service members are deployed into areas that still use exposed asbestos as building materials all over the developing world. Infectious agents from H. pylori. H. pylori is associated with stomach cancer, so that's an important one to pull together as well when you're talking about infectious agents and our military being deployed all over the world. Ultraviolet light is there as well. So these are where you're getting cancer risk directly associated with military members and where they are being deployed and so on. So if we go to the next slide, slide 15, and you'll see this is the cancer care spectrum. I like to call this the cancer care spectrum because this goes all the way from prevention all the way to survivorship. Okay. And this is our second military focus area that you can choose within that funding opportunity. You can choose to pick one of these areas from prevention all the way to survivorship. You can choose to use one of those areas. And if there is a knowledge gap somewhere in that area that would profoundly affect the health and well being of a service member or their family, you can go ahead and study it. Now, I do want to make the point that service members, if a service member has a child that is sick and they're going to be deployed, do you believe that they are going to be 100% on mission? Probably not. Also, that service member might apply for an exception to service. So that means that they will not be deployed. So now that unit has to be deployed without something that's very important to them, a person that was very important to the integration of that unit. Very important. That's number two. Number three, that's really important to remember is that the vast majority of people that are treated by our military health system and covered by TRICARE have never worn the uniform. That means that the service members, their families, their children, their wives or husbands have never worn the uniform. So they are being covered by the military, and therefore we need to be able to take care of them, to decrease the costs, and also to make sure that our service members stay on mission. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next slide, and that's slide 16, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the strategies for success. Okay, and this is the important part of the talk, strategies for success. The first thing I'm going to tell you to do is I'm going to tell you that once you go to grants.gov and you download the instructions, to read the entire thing. And I 100% agree with you that you are falling asleep while you're reading some of this because it's boring. Okay? I understand it's boring. I wrote it. Okay? But it's really important for you to read the entire program announcement all the way through. Use your little stickies and your highlighters and all of that so you know what's the important parts of that program announcement for you to write a really stunning application. Go ahead and do that. And then what I want you to do then is I want you to after you've read what's required of the project narrative and all of that, when you start to write, what I want you to do is I want you to go back to the peer review criteria. That's at the back of the program announcement. I want you to go into the peer review criteria, and I want you to read all of the questions that the peer reviewers have to answer about whether or not you've answered them in the project narrative and the application overall. And I want you to make sure that when you are writing that project narrative, that you're actually answering every single one of those points, because that's what I've seen. I've sat through numerous hundreds of peer review panels, and I have seen over and over again somebody didn't talk about their expertise. Somebody didn't appropriately power their study, and somebody didn't talk about the possibility of alternative strategies. Oh, that's a big one. Alternative strategies. People forget to add that in all the time. So please, please, please think about that. And what's the important part of the program announcement itself? Read the award information. What is this program announcement about? If it's an idea award with special focus, it's about innovation. Let's bring the word innovation in there. Let's make sure that you're talking about how this is significantly innovative. Don't just tell me it's innovative, show me it's innovative. So think about that award information area and really read that and get some ideas from there. If we go to the next slide, this is slide 17. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about pitfalls and mistakes. There's a programmatic panel. I've talked to you about them several times. Several times I've talked to you about the programmatic panel. We have members on a programmatic panel. There is a link in each program announcement that you can click on and find out who the peer review cancer programmatic panel members are. Do not put any of them on your application. They're not going to be a collaborator. They're not going to be a consultant. They're not going to be your mentor. Nothing. Because if you put them on there, the person who has to tell the grants officer that you are in conflict of interest and we have to kick out your application is me, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to kick out any applications. You cannot have conflict of interest. So do not exceed the page limits. I think that's a pretty easy one, but one of the things that you should pay attention to is when you convert your document, that you make sure that it actually is converting, and if you're converting and you're doing it in the legacy system for grants.gov, that it's converting the PDF from 5 pages to 5 pages, for instance. Don't miss the submission deadline. Just don't miss it. We don't allow stuff to come in after the grants.gov submission deadline. It doesn't happen. Don't even try it. Okay. We do have an application verification period that you will be able to go on and take a look at your pieces and parts and make sure that they're all in the right slots and all of that. So make sure that you do that. But you have to submit the correct project narrative and budget. That cannot be modified during the verification period. It's not allowed. So keep that in mind. So if you go to the next slide, this is a slide that you want to remember. This, if I don't impress upon you anything else, this is the slide you want to remember, because right up in the title is the URL for CDMRP. If you click on that URL, if you put that in, type that in, and you click on that, you can go to the lower left corner, and you can see for investigators, and underneath that it says open funding opportunities, and that's where you click in order to start an application. Most of our funding opportunities for the peer review cancer research program are currently open. They will close for the IDEA Award with special focus and the Translational Team Science Award. They will close June 30th. For the Career Development Award, it will close September 12th. And I am done.
Awesome, Donna. Thank you so much. That was some really, really, really great information. That just thank you for walking us through that so well. Casey is on the group chat, and Casey is our research and advocacy manager with the National Brain Tumor Society. Casey, did you have a question or two that you want to read for Donna?
I do. We have a couple questions, and if anybody has a question at this time, feel free to put it in the chat bar, and we can get it answered before the webinar ends. The first question we have is, can you define what is intramural and extramural in the context of the CDMRP?
That's an excellent question. Okay. Intramural for CDMRP is anyone in the Department of Defense. Okay. Everything else, even the NIH, everything else is extramural. So intramural are only labs and research activities that are within the Department of Defense.
All right, great, thank you. Another question is, pre-application screening just for program appropriateness, or is there also scientific merit screening at this stage?
That's an interesting question. The pre-application screening happens only for the IDEA Award with special focus and for the Translational Team Science Award. Within each one of those program announcements, you will find the criteria that's used for the pre-application screening. So it will do a little bit for research and maybe personnel and innovation, for instance, for the IDEA Award with special focus. For the Career Development Award, that is not, you'll have to submit a pre-application, but it's mainly what we call a letter of intent. You just write, you can write a line that says, I intend to apply to this, and I'm going to do pediatric brain tumor, and that's it. That's all you have to do.
Thank you. Another pre-application question. The pre-application doesn't show that a budget doc is required. Is the budget only for applications that have been invited to submit a full application?
Yes, that's a correct statement. We do not collect budget information at the pre-application stage. We tried to keep it as simple as possible at the pre-application stage, so people don't have to put a lot of effort into something that they might not be invited. So no, your budget is not due at that time, only at full application.
Okay, great. Switching gears a little bit, next question. Would brain metastasis fall under the brain tumor rubric?
It depends on what cancer it is from. If you did brain mets from breast cancer, for instance, we would have to disallow your application, because it cannot be any of the ones from breast, prostate, ovarian, lung, and kidney cancer.
Thank you. Next question. Is there any advantage to having been a PI of a previous successful CDMRP grant?
I think that the advantage there is that you understand the system and you understand how to write a good application. There is nothing that's going to be from your past performance that's going to help you in getting a better score, but it will help you in getting through all the wickets.
Thank you. We have a couple more questions. Next one. If my research is about bioinformatics analysis of pan-cancers or multiple cancer types, how can I fit into your cancer type priorities?
Well, I think you said when they say pan-can, I wonder if they're talking about pancreatic cancer. But what I would do is I would you can pick one cancer to focus on, and also state within your application that you will also be using the other cancers as a comparison. I would fit very well.
All right, great. Last question. In the pre-application, it states that it is advantageous to collaborate with a VA or a DoD investigator. How critical is this?
It always gives you a little bit of a boost to do that. It's not required, and I can tell you that probably about 98% of the awards that we have made since 2009 have not had that happen. So while it is something that we do encourage, it is not required in any way.
Thank you, Donna. That's it for questions. Great questions, everybody, and thanks for the answers. It's very helpful.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to add that I was a peer reviewer in the program last year, and so my job was to evaluate the application for how it could be used in the consumer, how the consumer feels about it. Do they want what this grant is offering? And so it's a really tremendous program. It was I learned a lot from being a participant, and it's very worthwhile. And I was really impressed with the evaluators and the reviewers within the room sharing about your applications. The applications very rigorous and careful. So we'll just end up here with Danielle from St. Baldrick's.
Thank you, Dr. Kimbark, for all your comments and your insights in doing your applications for the DoD and CDMRP program. Just to remind you to please, if you have any questions, as you can see on the slide, you can reach out to Lisa Peabody or to Liz Jackson from St. Baldrick's or MBTS for any further questions. And on behalf of St. Baldrick's and MBTS, thank you for your interest, and we look forward to a successful application process for all of you. Thank you.